Remember Jesus? He's at the Last Supper and he says, one of you is a devil. One of the same ones that was going with Jesus and healing the sick and casting out devils was a devil themselves. Ain't it funny how gifted people can be the devil too? We're going to. But it's not the people, it's the demon that enters them when they jump and do something against you. The Lord allows them to get a reprobate spirit, which means he wants them to stop doing what they're doing, but when they won't stop, he'll let the devil have them. Come on now. Come on. Tell somebody it's the devil. Y'all sit down. Then the Bible says, it says that they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safe. Watch this in 24. Who, having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in the stocks. See, some of y'all went through the beating that you went through, but then you went from the beating to the prison. Some of you have been going through solitary confinement. No, I'm not talking about a literal prison, but I'm talking about a prison of the mind. For the scripture says that they were thrust into the inner prison. How many people am I talking to that have not been in the outer prison, but you've been in the inner prison? You've been in prison in your memories. You can't get over stuff that's been going on. You can't get over stuff that was said to you 5 and 10 years ago. You're in prison in your mind. You're in prison after the beating and the blows you took. The beating is over, but the beating has never stopped because it's still recycling in your mind. And because of the inner prison, you never made it out. You're bound emotionally. You're bound by fear. You can't move forward. You're bound by your inner struggles. Bound by bad thoughts. Bound by negative cycles. Bound by how you feel about yourself, bound by what happened 10, 15, and 20 years ago. The inner prison of the mind and soul is a terrible thing to have. I come to tell somebody that the inner prison is a lot worse than the outer one sometimes. There's somebody in here that can testify and say the inner prison that I'm locked up in is a lot worse than the beating I took back then. Some of you went through in your past, and that's over, and you moved on, and you thought you moved on. See, I come to tell somebody you thought you've been moving on, but you ain't been going nowhere. Amen. For the scripture says that they cast them into the inner prison, and it says that their feet were fast in the stocks. See, when you're in an inner prison, you can't move or make progress. And I know y'all don't want to be honest and admit that some of you that feel like you should be farther along than where you are. But the inner prison, it kept you from making progress because your feet were locked up in the stocks. Some of you went through stuff as a child and you moved on and you moved from that town, you moved from that city, you moved from that house, but it's still in your mind in the inner prison. And now you can't move forward. Now a new relationship comes, you can't even move into the new relationship because you're thinking about what happened back then. Oh, you ain't hear what I'm saying? Some of you are afraid about what folks said about you the last time you tried to make that move that God told you to make. So now you're scared to move and your feet are fast in the stocks. The inner prison of the mind and soul. Some people never make it out of the inner prison. They go on to get a good job, but they're still bound. There's some people that's preaching up right now, but they're bound up in the inner prison of the soul. There's people that can sing you to heaven, but they're bound in their own mind. There's people that can dance up and down the church, but they're bound in the inner prison that nobody ever talks about.